Hey, everybody, we are back with another episode of Can't Stop Snapping, and we have some interesting topics, to say the least, to cover today. It's beginning of the month, new season, so we're going to be breaking down new season, new card, as well as some interesting new situations we've run into in Marvel Snap in the last week. And we're going to share our thoughts. I am joined by multi-time returning guest, TeddyNinja. Teddy, I am excited to have
Hey.
you back on.
Oh, it's so good to be back, mate.
Yeah, so I was in your stream the other day. I jumped in the chat, and you said, "Hey, I got to be on again."
I
And I
wanted to come back.
I had some initial plans for this week. They fell through, and I told you, "Yeah, a couple weeks, we'll make something happen." But it ended up working here really quickly. So thanks for jumping on short notice. And we'll be diving in here. So we have a couple topics today, but just want to talk just really quickly, kind of overview before we dive into some of the more nuanced topics about new season. Our
Yes.
thoughts on the theming of this season. So the season title this month is Animals Assemble, which I love. Instead of Avengers Assemble, it's all about animals. We've got animal variants of cards coming this month. We've got obviously the things shown in here at the picture. The new season pass card is an animal. We've got bundles around animals. And all of the new series 5 cards coming this month have something to do with animals, right?
Yes.
Um, so I'll just say personally, I love everything tying together so smoothly this season. We've had other seasons where you have locations, you have new cards, you have variants, etc. But sometimes it's not as tightly coupled, right? You'll have kind of a couple things that tie together, and you'll have some other things that don't. I love that it seems like this month they just went all out. Everything connects. So I want to hear your
Oh, for
thoughts on
sure.
the new season pass.
Well, I think that part of the beauty there is that we don't have a Marvel property releasing in theaters, so this is the developers able just to do like what they wanted, and they wanted to do the animals assemble. And the trailer that we got was very Jeff forward, so I very much approve of that. And then Hit Monkey as the battle pass card. I mean, the early reactions for this guy are so high. He's incredibly excited. People in my Discord are saying that he's the most fun they've had playing around with the card in months.
Yep.
I'm very high on him, so incredibly excited for what we're going to be able to get out of this season. And I mean, the level of the art and the variants. And I even heard like the card backs were pulling people and they'd never bought a battle pass before. This was the one that they wanted to go in on because of the exclusive art card backs, because that's a significant part of the product that they're bringing, not just Hitmonkey, right?
Yeah. I should have included a picture. The picture I originally had, it was a little skewed kind of sizing wise, and it did have those backs on it. You
Ah,
have one that's
yes,
kind of
yes.
one that's a Cosmo back, and one that is a Goose back. And then the infinite reward this season for reaching infinite is a gold version of that Cosmo or of the Goose back. That looks really cool.
Yep.
So definitely agree there. And I want to just call out what you said about the video. If you haven't watched the developer video for this month, I'd recommend pause this, go watch that, come back here. But I could swear that Jeff the Shark is the season pass card this month, right?
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if the animate like that was originally the plan, and that's what
Yeah,
the animators had to work on like months ago when they were formatting it, and then Second Dinner was like, all right, we're gonna throw Hitmonkey in here instead because of some other change up that they made. Also, we saw Jeff, I think, go through multiple abilities just in the data mines pretty
yeah.
recently up to his release. So I don't know what exactly they were iterating with, but clearly they stumbled at they ended on Hitmonkey, and I'm very happy that they did.
No, yes, I shouldn't say this is definitely not a complaint. Hitmonkey has been a blast. We're going to dive more into Hitmonkey, but they definitely leaned into Jeff the Shark. We'll be breaking down cards throughout the month as they come out. I think Jeff is 2 weeks from now it'll join Series 5, so we'll be breaking that down. But definitely some interesting cards this month. I would say that Hitmonkey and Jeff the Shark are the two most interesting to me personally. But yeah, just very excited. I hope they continue to just layer in the connection and the theming with season passes, because that just makes me more excited. I love the theming, and I'm kind of excited about this. And I agree with you. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're getting this movie. Okay, we're gonna get a Thor season,
Yeah.
which I don't hate, but I like something where it's a character I'm less familiar with. In this case, right? Hitmonkey. I don't really know. I haven't known the background story on Hitmonkey, all these things, and so being able to be exposed to something new in the Marvel universe is very exciting for me, right?
Yeah,
So
no, it's definitely made me put much higher appreciation on the characters. I want to start watching the Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur show on Disney Plus just because of I love the cards, and I mean the
yeah,
art style is really cool. That show is definitely targeted toward a younger audience, but I think there's still something to love there. And I mean Marvel has so many great properties. But yeah, when they just pair things to a movie, oftentimes they've already brought the major characters in,
Yeah.
and so then the theming of the month season kind of gets into a hodgepodge. Like when we get
Yeah.
the Guardians 3 season, we already have so many Guardians. Like, yes, we're getting Nebula added in, but that's looking farther out. But this one feels like a more complete package than
Yeah.
those other movie themed tie-ins.
Yeah. Well, last sidetrack moment or last tangent before we keep going here. You brought up the Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl TV show, which I have a daughter. She's 4 years old. I'm like, okay, here we go. This is where we bring in the Marvel. This is where we,
Yes.
do the connection. We started watching the first episode together. She's like, no, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Oh,
I want to watch Bluey instead.
oh, but Bluey
Not
is so good.
Bluey's great, but I was like, darn, I'll try again later, but we'll see if we can make that happen later on. But
Yeah.
let's continue here to one of the kind of the biggest topics we have today, which is Hitmonkey. We've obviously started referencing Hitmonkey here. So for listeners, in case you've missed out, so Hitmonkey is a 2-cost, 0-power card with the ability that reads, on reveal, gain +2 power for each other card you played this turn. Okay. So, and I think, I'd read the data mines before. Obviously, it seems like we're all doing that. And I just somehow missed the on reveal part of this. I thought it was one of
Yes.
those cards that had like no on reveal or ongoing. It was just kind of straight text. But the on reveal, I think, opens up a lot of doors because you have things where you can duplicate the ability, etc. We'll get into that. But it's for every card. And I've been playing with this card, but this is something I haven't paid attention to. Maybe you have. Does it include itself? I don't think it does, right? As
No, it will not include
for
itself,
each
but
other card you
other
play.
other hit monkeys will still count like the first hit monkey if you want to go like deep into the nuance. So if you were to play the hit monkey to something like Sinister, what's the one that copies for Sinister Citadel? The first one will flip and then he'll copy for all the other cards, and then the other ones that flip will actually count the one hit monkey you played. So yeah, he
Yep.
doesn't count himself. So if you just play him basic as the only
Yep.
card on a turn, he will be 0
Yeah.
for your Cerebro Zeros decks out there, you psychos.
Yeah, I'm not brave enough for Cerebro Zero, but that now you've piqued my interest now that you've said that. But yeah, I think this is an interesting card. So we've clarified that other cards you've played, right? So, and I think the other thing to note there is played, right? So we have this idea of added. The cards can be added to locations, right? Squirrel Girl adds squirrels to other locations. It doesn't play them, right?
Yes.
And then you have things like of course, I'm going to blank on his name, Mysterio, that
Mysterio.
plays
Yes.
cards. So
That's the natural synergy here. Is the Mysterio and the Hitmonkey is so good, but anything like Doctor Doom, Shanna, Squirrel Girl, et cetera, Hitmonkey's not going to trigger off of all those tokens, just the
correct,
individual cards played.
yeah. So always just like to give that basic breakdown so listeners will understand the context of this card, how it works. But now let's dive into kind of the juicy stuff, which is synergies, thoughts, impressions. Where does this card rank, etc. So I want to turn it over to you first. Just let it rip. Give us all your thoughts. What are your general impressions kind of 24 hours into this card?
Yeah, he's the meta god. He's the best card we've gotten since Zabu. I mean, that's I'm putting him over Kang the Conqueror. This guy is insane. I love him so. So part of it is that he's naturally feeding into archetypes that I really enjoyed, especially
Yeah.
Bounce. But I see him slotting into 3 decks primarily. You've got Mr. Negative. You have Sarah. A little bit of
Yep.
the revival of Sarah 2s rather than just the Sarah control that we've been seeing so much of, and then Bounce.
Yep.
And I think that all of these were hovering around a mid tier in the meta, with Sarah, of course, punching up a little bit more, but then Hitmonkey making them even better. It is so much fun. And the power level that he's bringing out of a 2-cost, it's
Yep.
crazy. It's crazy. You can just pairing him with Mysterio puts Hitmonkey at a 2/6, which is far and away premium stat line that is maxed out. Angela, you're really only looking at a Mojo to be doing any better than that. But Mojo is also requiring a number of cards and plays by your opponent to come into line. And if you combo anything else with the Hitmonkey, then he's even better. And he has the on reveal synergies too. He's cracked.
Yeah, I mean, there really is so much to unpack. I mean, I appreciate you breaking down kind of the archetypes. I would agree; those are the main things I've seen and or tried. You obviously anything with a 0 power, you instantly think Mr. Negative, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if I flip this, get a bunch of 0 cards I'm playing down on the last turn or last turns of the game, definitely can add some surprise power to the board that your opponent's not expecting. So love to see that.
And the big
Uh,
thing for the Mr. Negative call out is the on reveal synergy because of how easily Mr. Negative can integrate Wong into the deck. And with the Zabu providing synergy for both Negative and Wong, and then you have other on reveal synergies in that package, that's where the Hitmonkey can really come in and punch up.
yeah, you throw an Ironheart in there with
Exactly.
yeah. There's a lot, and yeah, you could definitely very quickly kind of in turns 5, 6, all of a sudden throw a ton of power down on the board, which I love. I mean, Mr. Negative was one of the decks I used to climb to Infinite last season, so definitely I haven't actually tried that out personally, but that's one of the ones I'm looking forward to. The one I've tried out the most is the Bounce, right? That is kind of instantly what I went to, and I saw some other streamers kind of going to that first.
Yeah.
Because I think Bounce is one of those synergies, this idea of playing down cards, pulling them back into your hand, using Falcon, Beast, things like that, replaying them, kind of continually shifting around the board, adding more and more power, but kind of adding that surprise element. Similar but different from Mr. Negative, where it's hard for your opponent to keep track of all the numbers of like what is going to come down on the last turn of the game, right?
Yes.
And so that's what I've been trying, and it has been a blast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, throwing down a couple of 1-cost cards in a location, Iceman, Korg, other things, bouncing them up with Beast, and then I have all these 0-cost cards to be able to throw down on the last turn of the game. So maybe I'm pulling out like a Mysterio plus 3 0-cost cards, plus maybe another card plus Hitmonkey, right? All of a sudden, this is a 12, 14 power Hitmonkey, right? On the last turn of the game.
Oh, it's so much fun. Yeah. Bounce is just so satisfying. It's probably one of the highest skill expression decks that we have. Probably it's below movement, but it's losing like the clunkiness of movement. It feels
Mm.
fluid because everything is so low cost and there's so many extra synergies, whereas movement often just gets kind of locked up or bound up and bad location draws completely murder it. Bounce has a good chance of still being able to play around those. And there's a lot of different flavors of bounce too. It's a very flexible list. If you want to flex into zoo style or even running the hawk or just going solid on the repeat activations. I had a psycho person call it. So we did an all-nighter stream testing Hitmonkey. Someone hopped in the chat saying that they were rocking the absorbing man in bounce to be able to clip onto beast and then return the beast to hand as a 1-cost and just keep on letting the good times cycle over and over and over.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds super fun. I start to think, okay, how sustainable is that specific combo? But it sounds super fun, right?
I think it'll be better when we get Kitty Pryde, the more cards that can naturally take up kind
Yes.
of this energy expenditure consistently throughout the game, but I'm sure that's going to be coming up soon in
Yeah.
more discussion.
Yes. We will get to that in a little bit more depth. I want to talk about one thing you said. I think that's an interesting call out that um, move and bounce are things we've obviously seen in the game for a long time now, right? They've been kind of types of decks around these strategies, but they've never really kind of come to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Based off of data that Marvel Snap Zone, I think anecdotal data that you and me have both experienced in the game. But I think that, like you said, I think the thing about move compared to bounce is that move seems to just kind of get plugged because everything's kind of locked into the board
Yep.
generally, right? And so
Yep.
if you experience some disruption, then it's kind of like, oh, well, I can't change that, right? Because I've already moved that card over to this, and now my opponent has played Professor X, or they've done this other thing. I'm blanking on specific examples where I think with bounce, it's like it's kind of you get to reset and play optimally for the given locations and the given played cards of your opponent, which I think is very powerful. So this just really adds another layer to that with Hitmonkey, where Hitmonkey you can just kind of save to the end, and you can play and even maybe fix some of your mistakes with Beast and replay out for the most optimal to win all 3 locations, which I've personally been experiencing. I've been able to win all 3 locations in several games because of that, being able to replay out what I want and where I want it, right?
Exactly. It's crazy. Like, is there a case for running Kang in bounce because of how flexible it is? It's something I kind of want to try. But also pairing off the
Yeah.
flexibility, like Beast is getting sometimes flexed into especially destruction for the reset. They play armor on you, you beast to get away, that gives you an out. I've always since the beta seen Beast as a card that if he ends up in a meta deck is on the chopping block for a nerf. He's providing
Mm.
so much power with the return, the reactivations, and the energy cheat. He's just wrapping up so much together that he is crazy. And I think the only reason he hasn't been nerfed yet is that he's not been in a deck that's taken over the meta to draw the Reddit's ire.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
But
part of me
the
hopes that
beta was
doesn't
the
happen.
golden age. The
Yeah.
beta had the old collector. That was when bounce was at its the old peak of bounce, right? Collector
Yeah.
could gain +2, and you had like copies of him hopping out because of the cheaper Moon Girl and whatnot. But now bounce is back. Bounce is back.
And that was interesting, right? Because that was at a time where not everyone was Series 3 complete,
Yes.
right? When that specific meta existed. And so it was kind of like if you had Beast and you had certain cards and you could kind of pull it together. But by the time that it, certain things have been changed, Collector had been changed, people were still unlocking, beta players were still unlocking a lot of Series 3. So a lot of people didn't get to experience that, right? In that
Yeah.
exact way. So it's interesting. So yeah, it's kind of something that's fallen by the wayside that I watch streamers play and I see a lot of those streamers play bounce, but it's not something that I face a lot, if you know what I mean, right? It's like I
Oh, for
see
sure.
people play it, but I don't play against it as much as I see people play it on
Yeah.
popular streams, right? That being said, it's only 24 hours worth of data, but I've seen it more in the last 24 hours, right? That's not necessarily a pattern or anomaly yet, right? But I think we're going to continue to see it because I'm seeing a lot of mirror decks. I think this always happens at the beginning of season, right? At least my perception is, I go watch streamers. I kind of craft my own thing. I try out things that other people are trying out. And I think everybody's doing the same thing. So I end up playing against a lot of similar decks we're all trying out. But we really have to wait a week or two, I think, before we see, okay, what actually stays at the top? What do people continue to play? Or does it just kind of go back to where we were before the new card release, right?
Exactly. Which, let's be real, Sarah, who got the short end of the stick of our discussion, I think is the most meta viable list. Hitmonkey slots in so naturally. And it's also pairing very heavily that I've seen on the synergy with Bast,
Mm-hmm.
um, who is predicted to be coming down in the series drop the middle of this season. I think that Bast is going to start just running over everywhere when she's adding. So she's going to be the next Nakia,
Yeah.
is how I see it. Um,
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. I love Bass so much.
But she is. Being
No,
able to tag Hitmonkey and Mysterio together transforms them into if you play them together, a 4 energy, 18 power play.
yeah, no, I mean, like, it happened in multiple games today. I played Bast, and I'm playing it on the Hood, Hitmonkey, and Angela, for example, and that's
Yeah.
uh 4, 7. That's 10 power just there,
One
right?
cost. That's a one
Yeah,
cost.
10 power for cards that I was already going to play out for the rest of the game, and then obviously I put Hood down, and I get another 6 cost card for one power or 1 energy. So like, it does
Oh man.
escalate quickly, but it feels very fun. So this conversation, I didn't expect to feel nervous by the end of this conversation, but as we talk more, I'm feeling more and more nervous of, what cards are going to be nerfed in a month or two from now as we continue to go. So I guess maybe we end the conversation there. Is your perception, I mean, again, 24 hours worth of data, listeners take this with a grain of salt, but your gut feeling, do you see Hitmonkey nerfs or cards surrounding Hitmonkey, like you alluded to, Beast, coming in a month to 2 months from now based off of your 24 hours of experience?
Coming in getting nerfed. Oof. Here's the thing. We don't have the final form yet without Kitty Pryde. I think if anything, it's going to be Kitty Pryde is the straw that'll break the camel's back. Right now, I don't think Bounce can be so dominant in the meta that it will be seen as problematic because Sandman just murders it. Leech comes close to murdering it, and Killmonger, while you can at a very high skill level be able to play around initiative and dodge, Killmonger is a very strong counter as well. So I think with
Yep.
these so powerful counters existing that are also easy to integrate in some of these other popular meta decks, I don't know if Bounce is ever going to become tip of the spear the way we've seen Shuri, Surfer, Zabu do. But Bounce is going to be very solid.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. I think the first 24 hours tends to be everyone wants to try out Hitmonkey. The next 48 to 72 hours after that is, okay, what are all the counters to Hitmonkey?
Yes.
Where we start to see, okay, now everybody's playing Killmonger. All of a sudden, I can't do this anymore, right? So, yeah, it's interesting to watch it play out in real time, but we will see how it goes. So thank you for discussing Hitmonkey. We will jump into our next topic in a second, but we first will go to a word from our sponsor. Hey all, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about MarvelSnapZone.com. Marvel Snap Zone is a one-stop shop for everything Marvel Snap on the internet. They have new articles nearly every day that cover deck building, strategy, card breakdowns, etc. They have a great collection tracker tool and a deck list builder that works off of that collection tracker so that you can know what decks you can build with your current card collection. They have guides and deck lists for all level players and all collection level players. Make sure to go to marvelsnapzone.com and check it out now. Okay, and we are back. And we are gone. I did this last week. We are back again. So we've been chomping at the chomping at the bit. I was like, what is that expression? We've been chomping at the bit here, alluding to this, but I wanted to make sure we had our own section to really just have this full conversation. I want to kind of look at it from two perspectives. One is that for those who may not know, we had kind of a new unique experience over the last week in Marvel Snap where a card that's been released has kind of been removed from the game. And what that means is if you currently own the card, you still own it, but you can't load into matches with her in your deck. If you will not see her in your rotation in your shop if you do not have her pinned. If you do have her pinned, like me, and you've not yet purchased it, you cannot purchase it. So that's kind of what it means right now. And there's a couple bugs with this card, but the key reason they said they did this is because there was a bug that was making so the game would crash on users when you were playing Kitty Pryde against other people. And so obviously that's a very poor user experience, and nobody wants that, right? Where there's like a game breaking bug, right, if you will. So, but there were other bugs. There was some bugs with lockjaw interactions, collector interactions, beast interactions, some of the cards we've already been talking about today. So I think there was definitely it's not solving one problem, it's solving multiple problems here, which we don't really know what the turnaround time is. So I want to talk about kind of from this new experience, our thoughts there, concerns there, and then obviously maybe dive a little bit more into Hitmonkey. Okay, if we could play Kitty Pryde with Hitmonkey, what do we see there as a synergy? So maybe let's start in that first section. What are kind of your thoughts? What have you seen in the community, people talking about kind of this experience of, whoa, all of a sudden a card is taken away from users temporarily?
Yeah. So it was definitely a bad look to have it come out with so many bugs because people had been theory crafting already. Just intuitively, we were expecting all these interactions to work. They weren't working. We were wondering if that was actually as intended.
Yeah.
And that because she was losing a lot of power, but she was already seeming like a solid card. I was frankly recommending people to buy her even with the existence of the bugs, which was how crazy she was. And then looking back to kind of other past experiences, it's shocking that Kang didn't get the same treatment as if they retreat during the animation, Kang's animation, I have to restart my app. So I feel like Kang has been almost relegated to the trolls. They'll just play him on
Yeah.
5 in a hopeless loss and then force me to restart if they're salty. But man, I hope that they get a quick turnaround on Kitty. I did see a note from a developer Twitter, I believe, that in their test environment, they didn't have any of these bugs. And so part of their investigation is what is like the discrepancies between live and their test environment that is the underlying issue. So there could be a lot getting retooled here to be able to bring Kitty back in the state that they want her in, which makes me worried for how long we're going to have to wait to be able to receive her.
Yeah. I always diverge into this when somebody brings up stuff like this, but my day job, I work in software as a product manager. And so this idea of you have different environments, you have like a dev environment, a test environment, a production environment. Those are kind of the normal three. Sometimes you have a couple additional, a beta environment for, production users, but in a small group. Right. And yeah, that is the trickiest thing is sometimes people say, I'm experiencing this, but when we look at it in another environment, it's not. So then what's the discrepancy? Why is it different? And obviously that can be things, code didn't get merged, or there's this underlying issue with our testing, or, there's so many things it could be. It does make me a little nervous because there was several issues, right? And kind of this discrepancy. Maybe there's an underlying technical issue going on here with the different environments they have. There's so much that I could honestly see this realistically, until we get another patch, just,
Yeah.
And that at this point, if we're kind of on the one patch per month cadence, it's probably another 2 weeks away,
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks away, which is a little disappointing. I think that feels bad. I understand bugs. I understand things aren't going to be perfect. It's a small, lean team at Second Dinner, right? And they're going, 100 miles per hour every second of the day, I'm sure. but yeah, it's definitely kind of a bummer, especially if you bought her and then maybe now you're wishing you could have just saved those tokens and bought another card and then come back and bought Kitty Pryde later, right? I think that's a little tricky. I'm in the situation where when I pin a card, I pin a card when it comes out, and I usually wait it a little bit. I like to watch other people try it out, just really kind of make my informed purchase, if you will. And so I kind of was doing that with Kitty Pryde, and I noticed some of the bugs. And I said, well, maybe I'll just wait just a little bit longer, right? And then she was kind of taken out. So I'm like, well, do I unpin her? She's still the card I'm most interested in. Do I, it's just kind of a weird situation to be in, right? So
Especially for somebody who has her pin now, yes, because I would fully recommend keeping her pin because she seems amazing when she unlocks. But then if it comes to the point of, Jeff is coming out, these other cards are coming out, you want those too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
wow. Yeah, that's tough. But they have promised compensation for those affected. That honestly takes a whole weight off my mind as to
yeah,
how this is going to resolve because of how well Second Dinner had handled in the beta the Nexus events and then the Jane Foster release fiasco.
yeah.
So they did such a good job there that I feel fully confident that we're going to be satisfied with how Kitty Pryde comes back.
I,
Um,
I think that's very fair.
do we want to touch on what the bugs are? Because there's a couple
Yeah,
strange interactions that people noticed. One was working as intended, and the others were bugs. So, with Kitty Pryde, if you guys are watching the videos or seeing her interact, she's a natural bounce deck synergy. She can
yep,
be recalled to hand of her own volition, and then she'll get buffed. And then you can play her again on the same turn. And this interaction of bringing her back and playing her in the same planning phase broke everything.
yep,
She is supposed to work with the collector, but she was not. She is supposed to maintain a price discount because of Beast, but she was not. She currently, well, at the time of release, that and will in the future not be affected by wave or any other price altering effects. That is working as intended. So setting her into like Doom Wave or something like this, where you can recall her, set everything else to 4, she's still a 1. It seems very fun.
yeah. Yeah, I think that one was very interesting. So I've got some text here on that last one you just mentioned. It says passive cost modifiers look for the last zone the card resolved in to apply. A Kitty Pryde returned to hand and replayed is still technically stationary at its original location until you end your turn and lock in your decisions. So that's interesting. I think that was something we
Yeah.
didn't foresee.
Yeah.
Or right, and so that was kind of like everybody's like, "Oh, this has to be a bug, right?
Yes.
This doesn't seem like it's working," but that is working as intended. But the other ones you described, I think, were the natural things people thought, like Beast, right? All of a sudden, I have the zero cost card, so like I'm just getting 2 free power per turn, right?
Right.
Which is again, I start to sweat a little bit, feel a little nervous. Oh,
Oh,
Beast,
with
Kitty Pryde nerfs incoming, right?
with
Um,
Angela and Bishop developed, it's actually 5 free energy a turn, so,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it sounds so fun to play, but really scary to play again. So it's 50-50 there. And then the collector bug, obviously, right? We already gave a shout out about this. I think we've all missed collector from the beta. Collector was kind of one of the best decks, where he was getting two stats for every card added to your hand, and he's just never been the same. But I don't think he can't be good. I mean, people still play him right in certain decks, but
Yes.
this feels like that. Okay, he still gets that 1 power, but with Kitty Pryde, that ends up being 3, 4, 5 more power throughout the game, which makes collector a lot more viable, which is
Yes.
exciting to me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely an interesting situation. Um, I'm interested to see just future. Do we see this again? Again, I'm very supportive of Second Dinner. I'm a big believer in Second Dinner and what they're doing and kind of their lean, agile approach to software development. Right? Let's get things out in front. It's not always going to be perfect, but we're going to make fixes quick and frequently, and we're going to compensate when the issues are larger. Right?
Yeah.
Even today, with the new season pass, they said one of the free variants that's supposed to be on the season pass tracker is set to like for the purchase pass, not for the free pass. They said that's an issue. That's a mistake. We're going to give everybody a free variant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's great, right? And so they have shown that hey, when things aren't how they're supposed to be, we will make it right. So yeah, just interested to see the future if this happens again. But I'm sure they're going to like have a big internal conversation, review the root of the problems, get to the bottom of it, and resolve those so they're not problems going forward. So
Yeah, for sure.
jumping to kind of the second piece of this, let's just talk a little theory craft, Hitmonkey, Kitty Pryde, because everybody was like seeing the data leaks. We knew Kitty Pryde was coming end of March and Hitmonkey's coming beginning of April. These things were made for each other, right?
Oh yeah.
So break it down for me. What's your thought on the synergy they here, and how would you best take advantage of it?
Oh, it's gonna be I think it's gonna be fantastic for Bounce to be able to have the two of them working in conjunction. I think it will also be very good for Angela. Any of these decks that wanted to be running Angela, Bishop, Bast, this core group is just getting fleshed out more and more. So they're going to get more and more consistent, which is the hallmark of the most competitive archetypes. The most competitive and the longest standing archetypes in the game are very consistently able to hit their win conditions. With Kitty Pryde getting added to Bounce, then you're going to be looking at fewer and fewer draw states or whatever you want to call hand states where you're not able to get your engine going. She can always get you going with the returns just naturally by her being able to bounce back on her own. I think it could even open up some very greedy plays with Moon Girl to be able to get double kitties and then having Hitmonkey slide in at the end, especially if you were able to discount her early. I can think of just off the top of my head some insane play order. If you play Kitty, return with Beast, she's then free. You have Zabu established to then be able to get Moon Girl down early. I guess that's a little bit tight, but still, you get the Moon Girl in there, and then you have multiple free kitties that have already increased themselves a little bit, and you combo with a Hit Monkey because you had, oh, I don't know, a Quinjet making one of the Hit Monkeys one cost. Like it's so fun.
Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, and then you throw down Mysterio with that, so all of a sudden you're playing like 8 cards potentially on the last turn of the game, right? With
Yep.
2 Hitmonkeys, so that man, yeah, that
And you always dodge control because you're picking them back up at the end of the turn. The opponent goes first. The Killmonger never touches them. He never sees them, and they're just in and out, in and out.
yeah, I think it's interesting. I just my mind is just exploding right now as we're thinking all this, and I'm wishing Kitty Pryde was in the game because that's what
Yeah.
I would be doing right now is playing that.
But that is the
Um,
highest, I think that's the highest level of skill expression in Bounce is when you're playing around initiative to avoid control. And Kitty
yep,
Pryde does that so well because she'll return herself if you want to be able to maintain her on the board to be able to get another play out because you know you want to go first, you can do that. If you need to move what location she's at to say like, oh, I'm just indexing all my points on one location, I have way more than the opponent developed, but they're still winning 2 locations. So the game says they have initiative, and you can play all these initiative games and go like really deep in to be able to dodge the countermeasures the opponent has.
yeah.
It's very interesting.
Let's I want to tangent there because I think this is some interesting stuff for our listeners. I think something that I've learned. So I guess I was gonna start the episode off with talking about this. I don't not to talk all about me and myself. I reached my first infinite last season.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and
Congratulations.
yeah, no, it was very exciting. I climbed from 50 to 100. I climbed from 50 to 70 before they made the change, and then so once I hit 70, then I went to 75 and worked away there. I had one person on Twitter. Most people were supportive, excited. One person's like, "Well, it doesn't count because they changed it, and
Oh,
it's
no,
it's
no,
a
no.
fake
You
it's a
made
fake
it.
win." And
You
I just
made
want to
it.
say that, believe me, I dropped enough levels in between to count. I made up the normal amount of levels with how much I dropped and went back and forth. But
95 to 100 has always been
oh yeah,
the largest hill to climb.
oh man, I was just like, I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. She's probably just like, stop playing, stop playing. And I'm like, no, I have to keep playing.
Yeah.
But sorry, where I want to go with this is that one of the things I feel like I've been learning over time, and specifically last month, really tried to focus on is this um, moving from playing just your cards and focus on your cards and paying attention to initiative, right? I think that's kind of another layer you add into your Marvel Snap skill set, if you will, right? Because you can just say, okay, these are my cards. I'm going to play them. I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing. All right. Okay. Then maybe from there, then you start to, okay, now I recognize certain decks. So I kind of know what my opponent's doing. And then once you kind of get to that level, then it is truly, I may make plays that seem suboptimal because I'm going to wait another turn to play a certain card out, or, I'm going to not use all my energy this turn. But that, with things like bounce and other archetypes, really can be a key piece in winning you more games and more cubes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because an opponent may feel they're in a powerful spot. They say, I have Killmonger, I have Cosmo, I have Shang-Chi. But if you're able to put yourself in a position to flip last on turn 5, turn 6, it definitely can be a huge advantage for certain decks. So I just want to give that a shout out and maybe hear a little bit more of your thoughts on that. I've learned that that's a very key piece that I need to be focused on uh, to continue to climb. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned the lesson very very acutely. I was doing a battle with a viewer on a at the end of my streams, which is how I always end my streams. They were running the old Moon Girl Zoo, and I was running Sarah Control with Kang the Conqueror. I had every control piece for what they wanted to do. I had Kang to be able to know what they were going to do, but they always just developed their hand with all these multiple cheap She-Hulks and hoods and whatnot. I always had initiative. I guess I wasn't holding back enough to be able to land any control, and they beat me in the friendly match. Like it was an incredible battle, and that's what really opened my eyes about how solid you can be with a deck, even if it's vulnerable to control. They weren't running armor or anything like that. It was just their management of initiative that got them over the hill, and
Yep.
it's very impressive when you're able to dance around those pieces.
Yeah. I think one of the cards I used in a couple decks last season was Valkyrie. And I think Valkyrie has definitely seen more play as time has gone on. Obviously,
She's a monster.
yeah, she's dropped series, right? And
Yep.
so more and more people had her. I had the luck of opening her in a reserve when she first came out, and like
Yes.
I used all my luck up for the rest of my life. But so I've been playing with her for a little while now. But I think that was the key thing I was missing of like, is Valkyrie good? Can Valkyrie be better? Is Valkyrie is good and can do a lot of interesting things, and you play her on ongoing cards, and that's a positive thing with Iron Man, stuff like that. But like thinking of initiative for turn 5 or 6 when you play her of, okay, how am I going to get the most value is my opponent plays down their cards, right? So
Yes.
I probably want to be behind going into a Valkyrie play on turn 5, 6, 7, right? Um, so yeah, just wanted to diverge for a second to talk about this because I think it's something I've learned more and more recently, and I hope it's beneficial to listeners, right? If you're feeling a little stuck, having a hard time climbing, think about that. Ask for advice on that. Talk to other people in the community about that. Of how can you be better on kind of managing your initiative and uh, pulling in that context as you're playing, I guess.
Yeah, I really am curious if Ghost is going to emerge in competitive play as kind of the answer. If you don't have to worry about initiative, you just guarantee that they're flipping first. I've been running, so I had my good luck of opening Ghost already out of a reserve. I was like, oh, that was my S5. Okay. But as a brilliant hazmat synergy, because hazmat obviously
Yeah.
getting a lot more effect the more of your opponent's cards are already revealed. And so if you're going first and you're playing hazmat, you're like, I'm just hurting more of my own cards. But with the ghost, you're always guaranteeing their cards are down first. And of course, you're trying to have Luke Cage as an extra safety measure in that list. But just there in that version of control, I'm actually finding good value out of running the ghost as opposed to anything else. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if she's going to worm her way into more lists like that.
Yeah. I think Ghost, we've talked about Ghost in previous episodes. I think Ghost has utility and will be a better card as time goes on. It's one of those ones like when it connects with some other type of card, in this case, on reveal cards happen last, right? The
Yep.
more on reveal cards get added to the game, it's kind of the more options she has, the better she gets, right? Theoretically. So things like um, High Evolutionary opening up like more on reveal cards, right? Like
I'm
we
so
we we
excited.
we haven't dived into that. We'll dive into that once we get to May. But
Can you call me back for that one?
oh yes, yeah, you're
Yes.
invited. Like there's so much potential, right? And to
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out new things. So
The thing
uh
is, the one cost, the competition for other one costs is steep. Like I
yes.
think there might be the most competition out of figuring out what one cost you want to run because we had Sunspot as the staple. Now we've got Kitty Pryde coming up to compete. You've got Ghost if you're running the control unique aspects that you want to be able to guarantee the initiative lock. And then we're looking at like Howard the Duck, let you know exactly what you're going to draw into. So I think the one costs are just they're very stiff to figure out what you want to run in there.
Okay, one more tangent. We've only got maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes left here. One more tangent, and we'll dive into our last topic. How would you make Electra better if you could change Electra? Because you're talking one cost, and I think Electra, like obviously, it feels like, oh yeah, you can like launch this into Sunspot, but like the play is Sunspot turn 1, Armor turn 2, so often, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that Electra often does nothing. Um, if you could change Electra, do you have anything off the top of your head? I'm
Oh man, I
curious.
mean, just like putting stabling more power onto her is like an obvious step up for the card. But if you had something where I don't know if she could play similar to Negasonic, where she blows up along with the other card, that because we've seen Negasonic be able to kill through Cosmo and get around some of the control effects. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe like, yeah, really
Yeah.
not sure.
I don't know if nothing could stop it from destroying that one cost card, but then that almost feels too powerful. But then it's
Yeah,
only a one cost card, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. I just think there's a couple cards that could use some love,
It
hopefully
could be something
in a
like that. I
future
mean, she
patch.
can only destroy. She's limited heavily in what she can destroy, but then if she's guaranteed to always get that target,
Yeah, she's a Sunspot counter, a Kitty Pryde counter,
yeah.
right? Some of these ones that are the best series or one cost cards, maybe she's that counter card
And
that
she has
does it for me.
beautiful card art. I would love to
Yeah,
see her more.
yeah. Okay, no more tangents. Well, I can't guarantee that, but we'll dive into our last topic here, which is actually one you kind of brought to the table,
Yes.
um, and that is a recent tournament. So there was this tournament going on recently. The name escapes me. Help me remember the name of the
It was
tournament.
the Infinity Gauntlet
The Infinity Gauntlet
uh,
Invitational.
Challenge Tournament
Yeah,
Invitational.
yeah. So this saw a number of content creators participate. The final came down to Jeff Hoagland, I believe, and Dara
Yep.
Jan. And
Two of our best players, two of
yes,
the
I
biggest
mean,
streamers. Like
two of
for
the
the showcase of the content creator wars, you wanted to see these guys go head to head.
yeah, and it was interesting because neither of them played just your old okay top of
Yes.
the meta Shuri things. They both played unique things. This is the deck that won out in the end. This was Dara's deck, molded and folded. And he when he posted about this, he gave the specific call out to Master Mold. So I just want to give you, we've only got a few minutes here, but I just want to kind of turn this over. What's your impressions of this deck, Master Mold? What are you thinking about this type of a deck, and does it have a place kind of in the meta as time goes on?
I was blown away by the list because at first I saw it and I was like, okay, he's making in a tournament environment, you're able to skew things from what you would play in
Yeah,
ranked, right? Because you're getting to read, you're making kind of bets on the meta, what are your counter matchups, et cetera. You think about things a little bit differently, but the format of the tournament is that you had two decks. So it was like you had two lives. If one deck was knocked out, you just had to play the other one. And this was Dara's second life. They came in with the balance patch. They were allowed to update their decks. He chose this to be able to run the loser's gauntlet to be able to take on Jeff, and then he'd have to beat both of Jeff's decks. And so he's teched in everything here. This actually is the complete package. And so I was watching it play. Master Mold is able to just attacking the hand size, your max hand size of 7, is a new avenue for the game, really, because
yeah,
these sentinels just get clogged up in hand. And there's a lot of decks that want to be able to play with their hand size, generating new cards that are different, or in specifically bounce, which he was able to just roll over with this. You've got a recall back to hand. And so there's it makes me really just amazed at the balancing of Snap on just a knife's edge. You have only like 27 energy to spend. That's not a lot to be able to manage. You only have 12 board spaces. That's not a lot to manage. You only have 7 spaces in hand, and then the opponent can even attack that. And so
yeah,
nothing is safe when there's controlled decks like this. And there's running Hawk, Rock Slide, the classic setup, but then using Ronin to be able to synergize with the Master Mold. Mystique can grab onto either the Ronin or the Hawk. You have Doom just for the flexibility here. Like this deck is mean.
yeah. No, it definitely looks like a fun deck. I don't personally have Master Mold. That's the card I'm missing here. But definitely once I get Master Mold, this is I want to play this type of a deck. I just want to give a call out. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, the video version you can see, but just for listeners, give a call out really quick here. The cards in this deck are Korg, Master Mold, Scorpion, Lizard, Mystique, Killmonger, Darkhawk, Shang-Chi, Rockslide, Ronan the Accuser, Sarah, and Doctor Doom. I just want to make sure you kind of we've mentioned some of the cards, but that's kind of the full context of this deck. And I think just to kind of sum up some of the things you said, like I think there's multiple packages here, which can be powerful in Marvel Snap, but sometimes decks don't pull it off very well. People try to throw a little bit of Destroy. I'll throw a Carnage and a Hood and a Nova, and sometimes that works good. You can kind of slot that in. Sometimes not so much, right? But
Yeah,
this kind of has some control elements. It has kind of the Dark Hawk package where you can kind of control their deck with Rock Slide Korg, right? But then it has the Ronin package, Master Mold, right? So, and then Doctor Doom, like you said, that's just a flexible card. Hey, maybe I'm up at a couple of locations and I have a location that I can't normally play into. Doctor Doom wins me that location at the end of the game, right? Um, I think it's just a very unique, versatile deck that I would love to see more prominent in the meta as time goes on, right?
exactly. I think old versions, especially including Ronin, have made the mistake, the pitfall of just building around him.
Yeah.
And then that whole package, when you don't find him, it's just not as consistent or it doesn't come across as well. This one has a lot more win conditions together, and Ronan's just here on the side. If he comes together, great. If he's specifically countering the matchup, even better. But if you don't need him, or if he's not going to be very large, you have so many other avenues to be able to go to, and that's where this one really shines. It's not using Max. I never thought that I would see a Ronin deck without Max, but the Master Mold choking up their hand can potentially even prevent them from drawing, and that even synergizes with the Hawk. And if you ran Max, you had anti-synergy with the Hawk, so that's been dropped, and this is what came out. It's a gem.
Yeah. No, it's very fun, very, very exciting. I love to kind of cover these things in the community. I recommend to everybody that you get out there, go to Twitch, go to YouTube, find these things, find them in the Discords, the Marvel Snap Discords all over the internet. There's just a lot of cool events, and I think that's only going to increase as time goes on. So very exciting stuff. We are just about out of time here, so I do want to turn it over to you, Teddy, before we say goodbye. Just want to give you a chance to let listeners know again where they can find you, how they can best support the content you're putting out.
Yeah, so TeddyNinja here. My primary audience is over, and Content Avenue is on YouTube at TeddyNinja, and then I'm also on Twitch at TeddyNinja15. We stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we'll stream always at the release of a new card, potentially an all-nighter. We'll see if that becomes a mainstay. I don't know. I'm still recovering from that one, but it was a ton of fun. So hope to see you guys over there.
Yeah, if you what I've learned from the internet is if you give your followers an inch, right, they'll take a foot or they'll take
Yep.
a mile, right? They're saying, hey, but last time
When's that next all-nighter, Teddy?
you streamed all night. Got to happen next time. So be
Yep.
careful. Well, thank you for being here, listeners. As always, thank you for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, we ask you to subscribe to the Marvel Snap YouTube channel, as well as leave a like and a comment to help us get more exposure. And if you are listening to this on a podcasting platform, we ask if you have not yet to rate the podcast so that we can just get more and more people finding the podcast and joining us here at Can't Stop Snapping. We will catch you in the next episode. Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast written, recorded, produced, and hosted by Michael Thurman. Thanks for listening.